All right, welcome everyone to our Planetary Intelligence podcast. And today we have a very special guest who I'm very honored to introduce to you. His name is Logan Jayson, and he is what he refers to himself as a metaphysician. I think he's also a decoder, as well as another title I would definitely give him. And he's been decoding since 2013. And his journey started, quite a few years ago. And I've come across Logan's work around a few months ago, to be honest with you, since I came across Santos Bonacci's Syncretism Society. And when I saw this man, this wonderful man, human being, his ability, his insight, his foresight into decoding and using various methods as the Chaldean system and so on, the playing cards, the tarot, the medicine wheel cards, which I'd recently discovered through him. It really opened up a whole new portal of decoding my own reality. And it's really enriched my life since I've come across his work. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Logan Jayson. Logan, thank you so much for taking the time and coming on here to do this with me. And it's so great to join forces with you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the great intro, man. It's a pleasure, man. You know, like joining forces with like-minded people. So,
how did your journey start? What got you into, the metaphysics and decoding reality? What made you start? What was the catalyst?
Well, I was in real estate back in like when the huge real estate market was exploding. I was living in California, and when the bubble burst, as they say, in 2008, when the Big Short, the subprime market took a tank, everything just went haywire for me. And during that time, I found the movie The Secret. I don't know if you have ever heard of it, but it's a very popular personal development platform made famous by the author Rhonda Burns. And so I started to become like a super freak with the Secret, and I just wanted to learn more. So my journey really started, the wake up call was realizing how the law of attraction, how the metaphysical world works. So I started to study all the books that she got her movie from. And then I got into Bob Proctor and Born Rich. And I was on this huge hiatus of personal development and learning how to become an entrepreneur, learning from entrepreneurs. And that just kind of led me naturally towards numerology. I don't know how that transition happened, but then I was able to move into the metaphysical world, which is the mystical arts and astrology. And it just tumbleweeded from there into astrology, studying as many different layers as I can, getting into the playing cards, the tarot. I have so many different mentors and teachers that I could sit here and thank, but these people were students of life, just like we all are. And we're just kind of like, I've learned that we're all DJs of life. We're just cherry picking exactly what we want to make the truth as our own. And that's what I've come to now, is to encourage people to decode who you are and why you're here. It's the most important thing that we can do beyond decoding how this reality works and the machinations of it, because that's really going to come down to a lot of theories and things that we cannot prove. But I think people want to know about what the hell you're doing here, right? And then, really this world is all about you. It's just, when you die, it's a contradiction, because when I say from an egotistical standpoint, this reality is about you. It's not about me. It's about you, but it's not about you. So in essence, we want to learn about who we are and why we're here, to raise, as Santos says, raise the charism, raise the frequency, raise the consciousness, and then allow other people to do what they got to do. And it's all gradients. It goes from black to white or white to black, and it goes in stages. So making the truth your own is the very best principle that I have learned and adopted as my own. And it really set me free, because you may not believe the same things that I do, but who's right? Well, if we really kind of break down the consciousness, we're both right. And that just really opens it up to where there's no division, right? I mean, our ego, our primal just wants to be right. It just wants to be right and tell everybody else that they're wrong. And it's challenging because I have lived through that for so long, being raised in a very tight-lipped, Jehovah's Witness religion growing up. It was just, I'm right and you're wrong, and that's it. And my code as well, if you look at my code and my astrology and my it's really heavily tied to trying to be right. So I've done a lot of personal development, and that's sprinkled now into the mystical art platforms. And so here I am trying to help people navigate through this thing called life. Yeah.
Amazing. I can totally relate to that as well myself. And it has this right and wrong concept. This obviously these laws of duality in a way. We've come here and. Like you, I had the same thing. I went into the Bob Proctors and the Think and Grow Rich and the Science of Getting Rich and all those things many years ago. And I can definitely relate to that sort of path of personal development. And there's a lot of things to do with thought. And I've come across. What do you think? Do you think it's all to do with thinking? Action has a lot to do with it as well in terms of how we act in the world. The thinking transcribed into action or transmuted into action. How strong do you see that sort of string, I guess, of going from thinking to action?
It's all cause and effect, right? So I'm a huge fan of Landmark, which is another personal development platform. I've been through their course 3 times. I'm going to go back again when they open back up the lives again. But if they do, but there I learned about, everybody trying to be right. Everybody's trying to be right and prove others wrong. We literally forego love just to be right. And that's the identity, which just wants to survive. So you have this primal inside of you wanting to survive. And during this Landmark transitioning period, I learned from Werner Erhard, who was the founder of Landmark. And I have it on my channel. It's the title of the video is called It Thinks. And it is you who have the thoughts. And this is coming from, the philosophy of Werner Erhard, which I'm a huge fan of as well. And when I decode myself personally, I found that I'm being used. Now, what does that mean? It means that whatever's running this reality, however the machinations are, it uses mankind to deliver to the world the expressions of what it wants to have to experience. So, I think it can come down here at any time and play a role in an avatar such as, you and I, right? So it's just really, it has the thoughts. It thinks, and it's us that has the thoughts. So the brain is like a switching station. It's a supercomputer. And do we have an implant in that brain? Well, the Egyptians were running sacred reality around the pineal gland, which was the crown jewel of the brain. And if you study the pineal gland, it is the crown of the mind. And that perhaps is the implant that runs you. Okay. And there's a lot of layers to this, but the pineal gland through numerology is the 914, which is the 95. And in alchemy, the I am is the 95 and the 53. So, and I know I'm probably being very abstract and people are like, what the hell does that mean? Well, it's just really hard to bring it down into layman's terms with some of this kind of information, but definitely it's cause and effect. And it is all about magnetism, electricity, and dielectricity. And we live on the motherboard, which is dielectric. It's polarized, positive and negatively. If you just study the mechanisms of a dielectric surface and the magnetism and electricity, you'll figure out how this reality works. And it works on those 3 principles.
Wow, fascinating. It's like the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus, and then Horus obviously being Jesus, and in the Bible it says, "Let thine eye be single." Single. Yeah, which is the pineal, which is all. It's all connected. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. I've seen in some of your podcasts, you talk about how our energy is being fed. So who do you think is doing the feeding? Who's feeding off our energy, or is it something, or is it actually feeding? Is it something like the Taurus field where energy is kind of being recycled and it's something that's reciprocal or reciprocated? What are your views on that?
Well, I think we live in a self-contained system. You know, people say, oh, you got the dome and we're inside this egg shape. I think we're more of an egg shape myself, but it's definitely a self-contained system. I have come out with so much research pointing to that we live inside of a battery, and the battery contains the positive and negative, which is, you know, linking to magnetism and electricity, and then we're the dielectric, and that's polarized with the positive and negative. So I really haven't been able to pinpoint who or what is getting that energy as the source, the monad, if you will, right? But it's something, and it may be multiple stages, multiple layers. I just can't figure that part out. And it will completely come down to a theory at this point. And unless I were to kind of maybe join forces with some, you know, some people that are in the quantum physics realm, I haven't been able to tap into any of those people, or at least befriend any of them, to kind of make a little bit more of a higher adjustment as to what is getting the energy. But the Greeks talked about it. They called it ambrosia. So it's not a secret. It's nothing new. The Greeks said that where mankind is being used for food, and the food is called ambrosia, and we are food for the gods, or God. So it's kind of like, you know, if you look at this I mean, we are a battery. Man and women are the battery. So if you put your left arms out, you're forming the anode and the cathode. And it literally makes you a battery. And the batteries can be broken down so many different ways in the emotions. The negative and positive is love and fear. I'm actually coming out with a decode. I just started doing it today on pi and phi, the golden ratio versus the ratio of a circumference of a circle. And that's pi in the Greek, it's the 16th letter, and phi is the 21st. 16 and 21 is a match directly in numerology to love and fear.
Wow.
It's pretty eye-opening. And what I'm going to be presenting to the world, I think it's really undeniable. And that's just using the Chaldean numerology cipher. I know a lot of decoders like to use many other ones, but if you're a decoder and you're just starting out, I recommend people just stick with the Chaldean, because it works off of phonetics. It works off of the numbers 1 through 8. And of course, go look at nature, the sun and the moon, they make that analemma pattern, the number 8 in the sky, and 19 is the 8th prime number, 19 in the tarot is the sun card. So you can start to see that Chaldean is definitely, in my opinion, is more tied to the source than any other cipher. But you can literally find truth in any of them, because they all use the numbers 1 through 9, and 9 is the repeater number. It's the deciding factor. Anything you add to the 9 will repeat it. 27 is 9. 2 plus 7 is 9. If you add a 7 onto the 9, it becomes the 16, and then 1 plus 6 is 7. So the 9 is a repeater. Any number that attaches to the 9, it repeats it. So 9 is kind of like the facting marker with this reality and how everything leads to that. And the 9 is attached to the 6, which form the yin yang symbol. But what's interesting about the 9 and the 6 is if you just flip it on its side, it becomes the golden ratio. Becomes that spiral, the golden spiral, the 9 and the 6. So they're very, very important numbers, the 9 and the 6. And you know, what's the 9? You know, what's the 6? I'm big into synchronizing things as much as I can. So I had somebody challenge me on the lineup of the planets, because, and as they should, because that's how we grow, right? But I've been showing how the planets are based on what NASA says, right? And, NASA says that Saturn is the 6th planet, which runs the third, which obviously they're saying runs the third eye, right? But what has the great red spot on it, which is the all-seeing? Jupiter does. So is Jupiter the 6th planet, and Saturn being the crown, which has the rings, and it puts it at planet number 7. And then you get into Judaism, which heavily favors Saturn, and their 7th day of the week is Saturday, which is Saturn's day. So there's so many ways to go with this. And I don't have a freaking telescope. I don't know about you. I don't have a telescope that has the technology to look out there and see the lineup. So we just can theorize with this stuff, but it's fun to theorize.
Oh, absolutely. But it's not just theorizing. I mean, it's quite accurate in the way to theorize around it based on these ancient systems that we are using, like the Chaldean system, like the astrotheological systems. And I mean, you saying the playing cards being older than the tarot, I had no idea that was the case either. That blew my mind. I was like, really? I thought the tarot was way older.
Nope.
But nope. Yeah, lo and behold, it's way older than that. And yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, Logan. I mean, you also talk about how life is scripted, and I see this kind of reoccurring in your talks, in your podcasts. How, I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, when you go through enough of your videos, and I recommend for the listeners to go through, I'll put the link below on the description to Logan's channel. When you go through enough of his his videos, you'll be able to see there is definitely a script running here. I mean, so if our lives are scripted, do we script it ourselves, or is it pre-scripted? This is what's freaking me out, Logan.
That's the question of all questions. I mean, you're going to have some people that, I mean, I have a friend who reads Akashic records, past lives. She says that we choose the script before we get here. Well, then we pose the question, does that mean that serial killers and child molesters choose their life before they get here to experience that reality? Right. So that's a big dagger in that Akashic records, theory. You know what I mean? And so I look at it like, I have come to the conclusion this reality is just not real. I mean, it's real to us, but it's not real to whatever's remotely controlling it. I mean, we play video games. People that do, they use a remote. We use a keyboard to write our so below. Well, what's our as above? And are we just the television screen and the so below for the as above? And it's not real. I mean, how many of us watch a movie and you'll cry, you'll get emotionally, it's not even real, and you're getting emotionally attached to a character, or getting angry, you're getting mad, and it's not even real. So, does it just stop here in this reality? I think not. So this would describe how and why suffering is allowed, because it's not real. You got to understand, it's like, okay, think about it from an abstract. And again, this is completely theoretical, right? So if you're the creator of this reality and you write the script, you write the game, maybe you want to come down and play it. I mean, do you think that people that, like this supplement right here, right? Do you think the people that made this supplement, do you think they've used this supplement at least one time? Of course they have. The people that make your cell phone, do you think they're like whoever created Samsung? Do you think they've played with a Samsung cell phone? That'd be ridiculous for them not to. So why is it so, like the guy that created Pac-Man, did he play Pac-Man at least once? Of course he did. So why was it so far-fetched to think that whatever created this reality is not playing out this game itself? Of course it makes logical sense. As above, so below. So, and so we're when we get this theory perhaps in our minds, and we look at how reality is scripted, as I've been showing, well then, how else are we to wrap our minds around this? What other conclusions can we come to? And then it would explain why suffering is allowed. You see, we go through these ages, and this is nothing that I'm coming up with originally, Golden Age to Dark Age. The oldest known religion, the oldest known text is not Christianity or the Bible, it's Hinduism. It's Hinduism, which is, Buddha and Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva. It's not a monotheistic religion. Okay, it's not. So, but then people that are in Christianity, they're gonna smash and they're gonna say that's not the right one. Well, who makes you the judge? Who are you to judge? So, it's the architect or architects wears many clothes, many wardrobes. And if it's been here for eternity, never created or destroyed, can you imagine how many games and scenarios it's seen and played out? Endless, limitless. So if you have a game that's perfect all the time, rainbows and unicorns flying around, it would get boring. So you would need some kind of variation to mix it up. And that's where you get your dark age. So you start off with, like I give the scenario of the golden age. You buy a brand new car, you go to the dealership and you test drive the car and you're like, and you have that pride of ownership and you can't wait to buy, and you do the paperwork and you sit down and you finally do the deal and you drive off that lot with a brand new car and you got that pride of ownership. And you're like, no, you can't eat my car. You can't drink. Don't bring that cup of coffee in my car, and it's a brand new car. So you have no problems driving it anywhere. It's not going to break down. But over time, what happens? You conform to it. You get tired and bored with it. The average person trades their car in every 3 years. That's why leases have become so popular. So when you correlate this scenario with the architect, like it starts off with a brand new car, the game's brand new. And over time, it gets bored. And then miles get on the game. And the miles is the virus, which is mankind, comes in. And I know a lot of people get offended by that. Like, oh, don't say I'm the virus. Well, we're parasites. And the host is the earth. Okay. We wipe our butts. We break down trees. I mean, that's what we're designed to do. And then we go through time, and time decays. As we move from source, golden age, to dark age, we move through time, and that lineage. Time is Satan. Satan, the devil, is time. Time decays us. That's why when you're a baby, if you're born a baby and you have no blemishes, everything works good. The plumbing works. You go to the bathroom. There's nothing broken. There's no aches and pains. As you move through time, you start to have miles go on the body, just like a car does when you drive it off the lot. And next thing you know, you got 200,000 miles on your car. It's time to either trade it in or send it to the junkyard. And then you're out looking for a new car. It's not any different with this game. Golden age to dark age, repeat. You go to study the mud floods, something rains down on top of the buildings or whatever, and you have a new age appear. And I think we're at that point now. We're getting close to that reset now. And, I have no fear with this now because I know that death is just a doorway to another dimension. Personally, for me, that's what I believe. But I encourage all of you listeners to make the truth your own. It's up to you what you believe. And it very could be that you're creating your own fractal and you will essentially move through that fractal at the end of your lifespan. Not mine. What I see, I may move into that. It may be different for me. So there's so many factors, but I think enjoying life and realizing this reality is a gift and living in the present moment. That's why present and presence is the same word in phonetics. The gift is the now moment. So it's great to decode, but I'm going to tell you, decoding comes with a price. And it gets real ugly when you do it. And that's why ignorance is bliss, because you go down into the hole in the darkness. That's where all the monsters hang out. You start to decode, man, that's where the monsters are at. You can get attachments. And if you're into that kind of stuff, I believe this stuff exists, because it comes, and that's why when you bite the apple and you want to know, you're curious. Curiosity killed the cat. You're curious about how life works. Comes with a price tag when you figure it out. And it's not so unicorns and fluffy marshmallow clouds down there. It's just not. It's pretty ugly. But you go back to the surface and you live in the middle and you live in neutrality, as I teach. I suggest to people neutrality is what wins the game. I mean, if you just look at, because you see all the celebrities doing this and that's Masonic and evil. And that's not even what it means, man. That's not even what it means, right? What this means is the Trinity. And it's the pyramid because the very pinnacle, like if you look at a pyramid right there, the very pinnacle of the pyramid is the monad. It's the source. It's where it's neutrality. If you come to either side, you now have positive and negative. And the I sits in the middle, and your I is positive and negatively charged. You're constantly going right brain, left brain, right brain, and you're going, the brain has the gray matter, and it's got a split off point going from the dorsal root to the ventral root. It forms the letter Y. So you split your mindset, and you're going to feed the primal, and you're going to feed the spirit. And it's good cop, bad cop, Jesus, Lucifer, however you want to look at it, however you want to play around with these constructs that we've created. So I think, like, why do we go to retreats? Why do people go in the jungle and, kind of go in seclusion? It's to go back to life. You go back to life. You detach from decay, which is like, artificial intelligence, electromagnetic frequencies. I love technology, but it has a drawback. It makes you decay faster. That's not my opinion. That's a fact. I sit here in front of this technology and this computer screen is giving off electromagnetic frequencies. It's not a healthy thing for me and you. So it comes with a price tag, knowledge.
Yep.
Good and bad comes with a price tag. But we want to know because people are curious. They want to know what the hell's going on, why this is going on. And, and like I said, the only conclusion I have been able to come to make any sense of this is that the game starts and it ends and it repeats. And what happens in between is everything under the sun. And that includes serial killers and child molesters, all the nasty stuff. People were like, because come on, man. If you, like, I tell people, I'm like, do you have any kids, Amed?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So here's a great scenario for you. Anybody that has children, if you got a phone call from your child and they said, Dad or Mom, hey, I'm suffering, like I'm in a lot of pain right now, or whatever, any kind of stuff, what would you immediately do whatever it takes to fix that or remedy that? Of course you would, as a parent, right? That's common sense. And we are imperfect human beings. But yet we're told that the creator of this reality is perfect and omniscient and omnipresent, doesn't make any mistakes. And yet we have a shit ton of suffering going on and it's being allowed to happen. How do we wrap our minds around this? A perfect God telling us not to do this, not to do that, but yet it's just allowing all this suffering. And I'm gonna tell you, you go into a place that like you go into like Haiti, or you go look at these places that are really nasty and gnarly, right? You think completely, because you're in your safe space right now, you're comfortable. Man, you go through the eyes of somebody else. You take on a whole different meaning of what this reality all means. And so the only conclusion I've been able to come to is it's number one, it's not real to whatever created this reality. Number two, it likes to remotely control all of us, or at least come down here and become man and incarnate, as Hinduism talks about, the avatars, and it gets to experience this reality itself. Because like I said, would you play if you create a video game, would you play it? Of course you would. So imagine, and right now the technology of video games and virtual reality is becoming so lifelike. It's where you are becoming one with the machine. So then we have the as above, like it's the creator becoming one with man. It's the same situation going on. You just got to put your thinking cap on and use logic and common sense. So that's kind of like my long answer to all of this. And these are a theoretical, and I can't prove a lot of this kind of stuff, but, thinking that, there's a God in the sky that, loves you and wants you to drink the blood and eat the freaking wafers to save you. It's like, I was once a believer. I once believed that a guy was swallowed by a big fish and lived in its belly for 3 days. I really believed that at one point in my life, right? So you can't get mad at people, and we need to detach from calling people sheeples. And who are we to judge? You were once a sheeple. I was once a sheeple, if we want to really break it down to brass tacks. And that's not love. Love is to be like, hey, I was once there. Man, I really am. And then you move into a state of gratitude, realizing that, like, man, I'm in a much different stage in my life, and I have compassion for those people that are not asleep. They can't see what I see, and they may never get there. They may never get there, right? And that's because this game needs players. And without the players, there's no game, because essentially we feed the battery. We're all little batteries. We're all little torus fields inside the big torus field, all little micro torus fields running around. You're a torus field. I'm a torus field. Everybody watching this, you're your own torus field. And then you have your mini chakras, mini torus fields, and it just keeps going. It's just fractal after fractal, right? But the game needs players, and without people being asleep, because if everybody woke up and be like, hey, wait a minute, I'm being used, and then I don't know what would happen, right? So we're playing a game of chess. The majority of people are the pawns. The pawns are disposable. That's just the way it works. It's not, they're just not gonna make it in the sense of making it. And that's not me judging. It's just me observing life and realizing that we are inside of a game. This is a game. This is a game for sure. And there's a game master. That's definitely for sure.
The game of life. I mean, do you see that? You know, when you talk about, you know, is it this? Obviously, I'm not trying to externalize God, because I don't believe in an external version of God. I see it as more of a inner to outer sort of principle, rather than a principle coming from consciousness. And just like how things come out of a womb, it comes from the inside out. It comes from inside to out, not from out to in. And I feel that with life in general, but also same thing as nature. Nature, like you said, nature kind of seems to preserve life more for longer and give more. Where we're around artificiality, like you said, I'm definitely with you on that. It definitely shortens my life. It definitely makes me feel more static. And I know it's not healthy long term for sure. But do you see that there is, in this kind of level of this consciousness, or these different characters that are playing around in this game, are some of these non-playing characters? Do you believe this NPC stuff versus the actual people who have come online and realized, oh, hold on, this is not what life is not what we're told it is? Is there a certain level of, I don't know, do you see that as something that exists too, that there are these non-playing characters, but there are these actual playing characters in this multiplayer game called the Game of Life? How do you see that, Logan?
That's a good question. Well, I mean, I think it's possible, right? I have not met one NPC. Maybe I've shaken hands with somebody, but I don't know personally someone who says, yeah, I'm an NPC. Who's going to say I'm an NPC? You know, who's going to admit that? That's watching this podcast. Nobody's going to admit that, right? So I think it's possible, though. Yeah, I mean, we have cloning. I think cloning is definitely on the table. Maybe the cloning is the NPCs, you know, and the more you clone, the more watered down you get of a human being, and then you become non-emotional, and now you're just strictly going off of probably a straight up fear. I mean, if you study nature, I mean, I'm here in Mexico, tons of crocodiles, man. They don't play around. Like they're on complete instincts of fear. They just strike, and they're just all about territory, and they're young, their offspring, until they're old enough to go on their own. So nature's so beautiful in telling you how this reality works, but nature is all about survival of the fittest. So is it possible that whatever created this reality put everybody down here, all the characters, if you believe in the reptilians, like, how did they get here? Maybe they were put here to shake the game up. Like, let's put this, the architects like, let's put some reptilians down. Let's see what happens with this. You know, let's see what everybody does. And, you know, again, if this reality is not real to whatever created it, then there's anything goes. Anything can go. And again, I said, it's like, you know, you have this beautiful unicorn and fluffy marshmallow crowd in the yellow brick road, and you have that for eternity. You know, where's the learning curve? You're going to get, even if there's no learning curve, it gets boring. So you need a little shaken up. You need a little bit of duality. You need a little bit of primal. Our identities are what allows us to navigate through this life. And said, hey, you know, like today, like, I mean, do we use our spirit to show up here and do this podcast? I think it's probably a blend of both. When you get to a state of consciousness, I feel anyway, when you get to the frequency that I'm at personally, I think you're always constantly spirit, ego. And sometimes the primal wants to come out. I mean, I had a friend who came out with this amazing passage about if you want to get out of the game, stop being an energy predator. And the energy predator means that stop relying on people to give, you know, for your energy. Like if you're going around feeding on people, like, you know, like putting stuff out, like if you're an artist and you like can't wait to get ticket sales, or you're just on stage and just absorbing this energy and you rely on that, that's kind of an energy predator, if you will, right? If you're needing some kind of confidence from somebody, if you're needing a relationship because you just need to have sex, that's an energy predator, right? But when you get into a relationship because it complements you and you both are feeding off of one another without caring about feeding off one another, I think that's really how you win the game. And then, you know, obviously, in my opinion, not eating animals, because that's a predator, right? And obviously it goes in gradients, right? So it's like, I know nature, it's all about predator prey. The largest animal in the world is the blue whale, and all it does is feed on tons of krill, which are little shrimp. And, you know, look at how that game's designed. Those krill, those poor little krill, they have little families too. They're trying to survive. They'll run, they'll hide, just go study them in the wild. But yet when the blue whale opens up its mouth, in goes a ton of krill. Why? You know, why? Because that's the way the game was created. Right. So I think when you become very aware of your surroundings and you become grateful of your life and you stop becoming an energy predator as much as you possibly can. I mean, I don't think you can eliminate it completely, but I think there's gradients to it. I think that's really how, and live a life of neutrality. Don't judge, let people do what they got to do. As if you follow Jordan at Waters Above Crypto, he made, you know, him and I become great friends. He had said one time, love is allowing, and I've kind of adopted that. And it's so true, because if I force my agenda on you, that's not love. That's fear that you're not going to like. That's fear-based, right? And we're all guilty of that. I struggle with that still, challenge with that. My identity, my primal, I'm trying to push it down, like, shut up. You know, a little voice in your head, shut up, you know? And so it's always a push-pull going on. And then, you know, as the Indian proverb, you know, it's the two wolves inside of you. Whichever one you feed more is going to rise to prominence. So which one is, if we're being authentic with ourselves, which one is really standing out in your life? That's really the key. And then you want to really be in the dead center. The blood pH balance, if you get into nutrition, it's all about homeostasis. It's being balanced and just being an observer, looking to your right, looking to your left, and just looking at this reality and just saying, okay, yeah, that I don't like that character, but they're just doing their job. Everybody's got a job to do. Everybody has a job to do. And you know, when you just can become an observer of the people doing their job, you won't, like, I've turned off a lot of the static. And static, I mean by the news and the tabloids. And my life has gotten so much better because I've done that, right? And that's ignorance is bliss in its truest form, right? Because whatever's gonna happen in this game, in my opinion, was already scripted. It's already predestined. It was already written into the script. And if I die tomorrow, the script continues to carry on. Just because I die doesn't mean the script is going to be changed or altered. My ripple is going to be very small, because I think it's the popular, the popular energy dictates where this world goes. The flow, the wave, if you will, that navigates this thing called life is designed a lot around what's popular. And that's why news and movies are such big influencers. Music, they're all influencing us. And are you an influencer? Of course, because you're doing podcasts with your audience, right? I'm an influencer, but I'm also being influenced by other people that decode, or scientists or physics or physicists or whatever else I watch, you know? So anytime you watch a movie, what's getting that energy? So it's really a catch-22. If I decode, like I just decoded Don't Look Up, the new movie craze on Netflix. Well, when I was decoding it, my energy is going towards that movie. Someone's getting that energy. Someone's getting that energy. That's how magic works. A lot of people don't realize how magic works. The straight up foundation of magic is just where your attention is. That's where the energy is going. Somebody's getting your energy. Somebody's getting it. Or something is getting it because you're giving it. So it's a push-pull.
Yeah, yin-yang, push-pull.
Always.
Absolutely.
Constantly going on. Constantly.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this reality being a sort of illusion, or Maya, as it's been called in certain Eastern traditions. But also, I mean, what are your reflections or thoughts on dreams, Logan? Because obviously, we have this, what we wake up to, we go to bed, and we're going to a different kind of script. And each night there's a different script. Mm-hmm. And some dreams are longer scripts. Some of them are quite short, depending on how clean your body is and how clear your pineal gland is to remember these dreams. And what are your thoughts on things like dreams as opposed to this reality, or what we call a reality here on Earth?
Yeah, that's another great question. Well, I mean, there are people out there that are far more advanced in, lucid dreaming. Think about the word lucid, Lucifer. But anyway, yeah, it gets really interesting when you look at the phonetics of these words. But I've studied some books on it. I just never tapped into that where I could realize that I'm dreaming. But yeah, you have the awake state and you have the dreaming state. And are we all just the constructs of a dream of the pineal gland of the cosmos? Are the planets, the lineup of the planets, are those the chakras of the cosmos? And it isn't, as a lot of the ancient texts, it's an anthropomorphic situation, which is just all the components of the solar system come together to form kind of like this, cosmic man, and it's the as above, right? And it just works in unison, and we're the micro of that. And really, we're kind of like a distortion, if you will, because, hue is light. So we're light being slowed down into physical matter. And when you become a human, it's a distortion, so to speak. It's a distortion of the ripple, the flow of energy. And now you cause resistance. So when you look at Ohm's Law, which is just voltage, resistance, and currency, well, mankind we are the resistance in the currency. The currency flows, we end up getting in the way of that currency, and it has to go through us, and we absorb that currency. So perhaps, and we're being polarized through the positive and negative on the dielectric plane, which is the motherboard called Earth.
I mean, just going back to the whole dream state, I know you said that, but just what are your personal sort of thoughts on I
get a little sidetracked. Yeah.
Just to go back on the dream.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we have these two states, awake and dreaming. I mean, I love sleeping myself. I've always been a fan. I try to get 8-9 hours a day. I look forward to going to sleep. But I'm not one to wake up and scribble them down on a piece of paper and write them down. And and I've never really had dreams that came true. That's me, right? There may be other people that are listening to this where they have dreams and then they actually come to fruition in the future days, or they're able to forecast and see other things happen for other people. I mean, there are different layers of being psychic. I think we're all psychic as human beings. And I think the psychic realm involves not only the asleep state, but also the awake state right now, because this may be the asleep state for the as above we're constantly either awake or asleep. Somebody's sleeping right now. So it's always a duality going on.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the same thing, because I've studied, my field of sort of study has always been psychology, Logan, and I've had a fascination with Jung's work, Otto Rank, and many other these sort of unsung heroes of psychology. Wilhelm Reich, who's another great thinker, and not a lot of people, everyone relates to him talking about the organites and that sort of technology, but he was a great psychologist as well. And that's why I was so fascinated, and that's why I was asking you about things like dreams, because Jung talks about how dreams is the unconscious, and the unconscious is what we are not aware of, but it's there, which I would probably allude to, is the script, or is the script we're not aware of, perhaps. That's the way I look at the collective unconscious. And like you said, the reality we are living in is a collective of people's, or should I say human being's choice here on Earth. The collective is manifesting the script. If, like you said, collectively we decided we want unicorns and rainbows, we can make that happen, Yeah. But I'm glad that's not the case, because I think we're living in very, very interesting times right now.
Exciting times, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, where do you see this heading? You kind of sort of touched upon how you're thinking we're coming to the end of this cycle. And obviously, where there is an end to a cycle, there's a beginning of a new one. What is your outlook? Do you have a dual outlook in terms of, is it a positive or a negative outlook on this, Logan?
Well, I strive not to do positive and negatives. I just strive to look like everything just is, right? Mm-hmm. There are many different theories that I have floating around on what I think could happen. So if we're creating our own fractals, That's one theory, right? So whatever you believe is going to happen will eventually come to fruition, and everybody that's living in this, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of crazy. It's like, imagine you personally, all of you listening, you are the creator of your own reality, and everybody in this reality follows your reality. That's very egotistical thinking, right? That you are the center and everybody follows your script. But that may be the case if you are a fan of fractals. So there is that on the table. Then you have the Law of One material, which is made, the raw and graduating to the next, the 5D reality and escaping the 3D apocalypse. There is that theory on the table, which is a nice outcome. So if you're 51% service to others, you would graduate to 5 density, and you would leave behind the 3 density of height, depth, and width, right? Which is the 3D reality that we live in. Then there is, you got to bring astrology into this, and we can't leave it out, right? So is it possible that if we're moving into the age of Aquarius, or we've already done that, it is an air sign, number one. And it is ruled by the dog in the Chinese, okay, which is man's best friend. And the opposite house of Aquarius is Leo, which is ruled by the sun. And in the Chinese, it's the freaking dragon, which is the most revered animal in all of the Chinese culture. And these astrology signs, they play off one another. It's like the yin yang. They're called Jacob's ladders. I call them anyway. So you have the 11th house of Aquarius, 5th house of Leo, and Leo would be at the top, and it would rule over the sign of Aquarius, which is what we're all living through. And if we're living through this age of Aquarius, and it's all about I know thyself, is it possible that we will have this big extermination, which you go into the Georgia Guidestones? I know it does. It's not pretty. It's not a pretty one. But is it, like if you go into the Shemitahs and Judaism and the Old Testament, and, you get into some of these ancient texts, scripture that has the word script in it. Is it the only script? I don't think so. I think there's many scripts playing out. But if you follow that one and you go into the Shemitah and you have the harvest and, the reaper comes, well, if we're in the 50th Golden Jubilee year, which is what we are right now, we're moving into that between now and the end of Rosh Hashanah and moving into Rosh Hashanah in September, will we see this mass extermination? You could have the rapture in there, that could come. I don't know. All possibilities are on the table, but the earth needs a break right now. Mankind has pillaged the earth with its oil, taken all the blood from the earth. Mankind has dug up all the metals. Think about why we're digging these metals. What are we doing with these metals? A lot of these metals we're using to build computers and artificial intelligence, which is, you could say that is Satan as well, right? Because that decay, remember we talked about decay, computers decay you. You open them up, the electromagnetic frequencies, they decay you, knowledge decays you, because the more you know, you realize it's not as a pretty world as you think. That's why ignorance is bliss. And going in the jungle and going in seclusion is really healthy to do, because you start to become alive and vibrant, you become one with the motherboard. But is it possible that there will be a massive extermination and there will be left with 500 million people, as the Georgia Guidestones claims? Well, that would take a big burden off of the earth. And then you would have a breather. The earth would have a breather to regenerate, to do what it needs to do. The animals would have a break. All the suffering of the animals and the killing of all these animals, they would get a break. And then for however long that cycle lasts, we then move into the age of Capricorn. That's an earth sign. So then are we going to come back and repopulate the earth? And you get these stories about the Ark, and you get these shows like the 100, which talks about the Ark and the repopulation of the planet. So there's so many different ways that you can slice or dice this. So there is that possibility that the earth will get a break for a while, and mankind, the majority of them, will be removed from the board. And again, it's not a pretty one. And I'm not saying it's true, by the way, everybody listening, this is a possibility. I must say these things because people, they end up taking me so serious. And like, I'm the farthest thing from that, even though I appear that way. I'm just a fun-loving guy who has a lot of theories in mind. And I really just have let go. I don't really care anymore. I try to stay away from debates, and I get sucked in from time to time because I'm human, but So these are the things that are possible. But then we may end up just all of us, are just going to go our own separate ways and live through these fractals, that we're all creating. So I just think tomorrow's not guaranteed. Go be the best superstar you can be. Be the star in your own movie instead of an extra in somebody else's. I mean, that's Bob Proctor right there, So I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. I mean, do you see, when we talk about the ego itself as well, do you see the dangers of the ego? Because we've seen that, in a way, even like psychopaths have egos in the sense of everything revolves around them. There's obviously I like you, I try to avoid duality because I know it's the game. It's part of the game. It's part of the illusion. But in terms of the ego as well, like we talked about how spirit and ego comes into play, and ego is not something you can touch, but it's something that obviously operates in this reality, and spirit is something that's the ether, that's part of the ether. I think that some of the Santos work talks about the ether. But do you see that there is? A lot of people say, "Oh, get rid of the ego," or "I have no ego," which is not possible. I don't think
bullshit. That's just ignorance right there. You're not going to get rid of the primal. Stop eating food. That's the primal. Every time your stomach says "feed me," that's your primal. You're feeding your primal. So, when somebody says, "Oh, I don't have an ego," that's just ridiculous. That's just pure ignorance, and that's my opinion. But I just, if you really start to study this reality, I don't think it's possible to get rid of your identity. That's what, my decode your reality is, there's spirit floating around in there, right? I'm showing both, but it's relying on my identity. Logan is an identity. I identify myself like, hey, my name's Logan. That's an identity, right? But it's going to have both spirit and ego. I think taming that, as I mentioned, you become less and less of an energy predator. Make sure you're being, surround yourself with love on all accounts with all animals. Like I'm in a state of teaching gratitude, being a gratitude junkie. And I'm talking about loving all creation, being in that state of gratitude, being involved in the gift of life. When you walk outside, we're stone cold killers, Amed. Like you walk outside, You're constantly killing things. You can't help it, right? Because there's things you can't see and you're walking in the dark. But if you're walking in the broad daylight and you're walking down the sidewalk, are you looking down, making sure you're not stepping on the bugs? That's being conscious of the now moment, because those bugs have families too. And I know that people say, oh, it's just a bug, but what makes you so superior to the bug, right? It's not. So when you become one with, with mankind, with the world, you become in a state of gratitude and you realize that life's about you, but it's a contradiction. It's not about you. It's not about you.
Are we here to, like how the Matrix alludes to, are we here to all become Neos and Trinities, or what are your thoughts on that in terms of that sort of metaphor in the story of the Matrix?
Yeah. Well, I think that, if you're watching this and you resonate with this information, all you're looking for is little slivers. Because again, you got to make the truth your own. I know that's a heavy thing for people because they're like, oh no, because I have people they'll defend the Bible. Well, if you don't believe in this truth, you don't believe in the absolute truth. And that's just ignorance right there, right? That's your truth. But who makes you boss? That's a man-made construct, however that looks, right? So I think that we all can become that Neo kind of character. But I think there's gradients to it. Waking up, there's gradients to it. And these are all theoretical. So even with the Wachowskis in the Matrix, some say it was a documentary. I kind of side with it a little bit. I don't think it's absolute, right? But we use it as a bridge. We use it as a parlay into other things. And we can start to, and again, it's a matter of what do you believe? Because, and then letting people do what they got to do, not force it on people. Stand your ground. That's cool. I do it all the time. That's using your ego, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. When you stand your ground and say, don't come here, don't tread on me, that's your ego. So I just think it's, I think we definitely have all the ability to become the one, but I think it's a matter of waking up, and the one would be right here anyway, because these two eyes are your little devils. As I have said, you got the two black suns there. Your pupil is the black sun. It takes in the light. It doesn't give off any light of its own. It's there to absorb light. But when you close those eyes and you go within, it's this eye that you can block out the outside world and get rid of the illusions. We've all been duped. We've all been deceived, not by this, but by these. So that's why meditation is such a valuable tool to go into on a daily basis.
What's the most profound decode you've come across in your time decoding? What was the one that really kind of freaked you out or kind of gone, wow, this is crazy?
You mean a decode that I've done, or I've
that you've done?
I think
have done.
Yeah, I think a big standout was my Christ battery, the Christ battery, decoded, and it was when I found that the flux capacitor in Back to the Future was the letter Y, which forms that cross shape, and the crucifixion, and that was just kind of a big bridge for me, and realizing that perhaps we're being used completely. And I have to say perhaps because I can't prove that. I can't prove it, but my research supports that. I mean, if I were to show, I use this a lot. If I were to go to a court and present my research as my evidence, as the prosecution, to present my case to the jury, what would the defense have to bring their evidence? What would somebody come to defend my information? Me, because I want to go on the offense. My offense is decode your reality. So now, if you don't believe what I'm showing is the truth, what are you going to bring to court to bring? What's your offense to sway the jury if we're going to use that and for them to make the decision? And remember, you, ladies and gentlemen, you're the jury. When you're watching research, when you're watching someone else's channel, they're the prosecutor or defense, primarily the prosecution. They're giving you their evidence. It's up to you to make a decision on what you want to believe, and is it what are you going to end up siding with? And I think it's no different than a DJ. A good DJ has a good track list. Not necessarily, they should be able to blend songs and all that kind of stuff. What songs will they show up at the stage to sway the crowd back and forth, to make the crowd happy? I've been to a lot of house raves and all that stuff over the years, and I found that I was bummed out a lot of times going to some of these shows because I had this anticipation. I'd show like, oh, my favorite DJ's playing, and then I go and it sucked. It was complete garbage because she didn't play the tracks that I thought they were going to play, right? That I was a fan of. So, that's what we are. We are DJs of life. We are cherry picking, like, oh, I want to take a little bit of that. I like that belief. I'm going to take a little bit of that. And then you mishmash it into this pot, and it's brewing on your stove all the time. And you're constantly adding ingredients, and you may be taking some ingredients away. I got people that unsubscribe to my channel, subscribe, unsubscribe, I mean, I put Don't Look Up. I have had 3 people unsubscribe. I don't know what the heck I said in there, but I got 3 people that unsubscribed from Don't Look Up. I don't lose sleep over it, but like, why would you unsubscribe? Obviously, there's something in there I said that you didn't like. So you're taking that ingredient out of your bucket. And now Logan's not going to be part of your reality anymore. Maybe I'm not supposed to be, So maybe it's not part of your destiny. I don't know. I'm all about predestination. There's no other way to describe what I've found in my research and what other great decoders have found. This reality is scripted. It's predestined. It's the only way to wrap your mind around it. That's why all the ancient texts, Golden Age, the Dark Age, the Bible, Genesis, Revelation, it's telling you the same story. It has a starting point, it has an ending point, and then it will repeat. It's going to repeat, just like it always does.
Is it the overall script? I mean, because we talk about mankind having free will, and I think I asked you this question on one of your. I mean, this is how we first managed to interact. But just to kind of go into that question a little bit deeper, do you feel that there is I'm going to try and frame this question in the right way. So we have the script. It's predestined. It's scripted. Okay, we've established that through the decoding. But where does free will come into play? is it like a video game where we have the illusion of choice, meaning it's free will, or is it a free-for-all universe, world where you can just do whatever you want within the laws of physics, of the material matter that you live in?
Yeah, those are great questions, and this is just going to come down to an opinion, a theory, right?
Yep.
But if you just look at a video game, right, you put on Madden NFL, you don't press any buttons, there is no movement, there's no game. Pac-Man, if you go put a quarter in the machine and you don't move that joystick, that ghost is the ghost is already programmed to move to attack Pac-Man. And if you don't move, if you just sit in the center of that game, you will die. You will lose. You'll get your 3 lives and that'll be it. Donkey Kong, I'm just naming off games that I played as a kid, growing up. Yeah. Star Wars, Space Invaders, you don't move, you're going to get killed. So, I think grabbing that remote, but are we being controlled remotely? I think so. I've come to the realization that's exactly what is going on. As far as the free will is an illusion, it quite possibly could be. There was a point where I believed that there was no free will. Everything's calculated, right? So then people say, well, I'm just going to prove you wrong. I'm going to get in my car and drive to the gym, or I'm going to go to the store right now and get myself a bag of chips or whatever, just to, but how do you know it's not your higher selves doing that just to make you stay in the game? And the game is fun because you're like, oh, I want to go have spaghetti tonight. That's the fun part of the game, right? And then there's that the illusion? Maybe. I think rather than debating whether or not we have free will, just go discover what the hell you're doing here, right? That's to me is more important than anything. What are you doing here? You're not here to just smell flowers. You're not here to make, your girlfriend have a good feeling in the bedroom, or your husband. You're not here for that. That's just all primal. That's the ego. You're here for much more than that, right? So the free will thing is just really open for debate, and there's no way to prove it. There's no way to prove it. It's just not. Yeah. 2000. Yeah, The Mysteries of Life, 2000. I know it's a movie, so we can't think everything is true from a movie, but the Adjustment Bureau 2011, Matt Damon, he comes in there and he says, oh, you think you got free will? Come on. If we gave you free will, you would have already killed yourselves. You would have already destroyed the planet. Think about the radicals. People, right? Think about the crazy people that we are grown to see and hear about. What about those characters? So, I think that, again, it's not this is a simulation. It's a game. It's being controlled remotely. Just how much is being controlled, I can't prove that. I personally think that the architect or architects want the whole fallen angel story and that story was the angels had eyes for the females. It's all about chasing the tail, man. It's all about the masculine chasing the feminine. It's all about the testosterone chasing the estrogen. It's ridiculous. But those had eyes for the females, and they wanted to come down here and mate with them. And so you incarnate, you become man. Now you get to use your senses. Maybe when you become outside this reality, maybe you don't have the ability to, feel any senses. So you want to feel that, right? And maybe this is the ultimate game because it is lifelike. Like I can feel this, I can hear this. We're here right now interacting, and the possibilities are really limitless. So who knows what really the truth is? And I guess we're either going to find out, and that's the duality as well. We're either going to find out or we'll never find out.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just open for anything at this point. I just enjoy life. I'm grateful that I'm here and I'm enjoying my gift.
Absolutely, brother. I'm with you 110%. Yeah. That's what we should be, feeling grateful for life. And life is for the living, so you come and live and do the living, and don't be a chump, basically. So I'm actually fascinated when you just referred to the whole thing about the player controlling, because in a way, if with the ego or whatever, the ego is like the interface then, and it's the character in the game, and then obviously the one sitting behind the screen is the one playing it, But like you said, it could be fractal. It could be in an infinite level of players playing the game within the game within the game, like a Russian doll type of thing, but it's endless.
Totally.
So that's something that really kind of blows my mind as well as a possibility. But have you ever had an experience like that, a kind of an experience? Because I've had, but I just want to see if you've had any sort of experience where you've realized the player in your consciousness. Have you ever had an experience like that, ever, Logan, at all?
I'm kind of having a hard time like realizing that I'm a player. Is that what you're?
No, realizing that there's someone playing you.
Well, yeah,
playing your character, you as Logan. Yeah.
I mean, look, if I have decoded my life from top to bottom, and I'm not even scratching the surface, and all of my notions are moving towards the fact that my life is always been completely scripted. And so just with that, I'm totally okay, and I've let go. And, the little conversation that we have with the little voice in our head, like the little voice in your head that's talking right now with all of you and listening in the audience, whether you like this or not, whether you agree or not, it's your identity. It's that runs you. So this little voice in your head, I have conversations with it. I don't know about you, Amed, but I through my whole life, as far as I can remember, I've always talked to myself out loud, and I've had to limit it when I go in stores because people think I'm probably nuts, like 5150. You know what I mean? But I do it all the time when I'm not out. And again, so it's just the funny thing about this example.
Yeah.
This shows and proves to me that life's about looking good, because if I didn't care, I would just go out there and look like a nutter. I would just go out there and talk to myself all the time and have a conversation with myself. And people would be like, but no, I don't do that. So my ego's like, no, let's keep this quiet because I don't want anybody to know that you're talking to me. So I do it freely around my house, but I don't act the same way in my house as I do when I go to the store. And I bet everybody listening to this podcast does the same thing. Why do we do that? Because it's the little voice in your head. It runs you. It owns you. And I have enough evidence in my own personal life, that I've shown the patterns that I show up. Like I'm here in Mexico. Why am I here? I can show you the patterns of why I'm here. I see the signs. I'm always being reminded. And then the time, like my videos that I'm creating, the timestamps, even with other people that I'm doing it for. I'm sure this one, when we finish with it, the ending and how long the time is, I guarantee you it'll be somewhere in the code and the script, but eventually what you'll end up finding when you read the numbers is they're all part of it. It's not like one number's better than the other. Cause some people say, well, do you have a favorite? Nope. Because they're all playing a part. They're all, like numbers are alive and they're archetypes and they're like players on a field. Like in football, you have NFL football, you have 11 players on offense, 11 on defense. Those 11 people have numbers on their back, and that's what they get referenced by besides their last name. Numbers in mathematics are the same way. They're used to do equations and all this kind of stuff. They're alive and they're giving their say, their authority, but they're teaming up. 1 + 1 = 2. Well, without the 1 and the 1, you ain't got no 2. So there's no existence of the 2 without the 1 and 1 coming together and teaming up and saying, hey, let's play a game. Let's put the addition sign in between us, and then we can make the number 2. And now the number 2 is created, and the number 2 comes on the scene. He's like, hey, what's up, number 1 and number 1? So we can start to have fun with this and realize everything is really consciousness when it comes down to it. Yeah.
Where does the 0 play into this, Logan?
0 is the egg, man. 0 is the starting point. The 0 is when you look at the tarot, it's the world card. The world card has the big cosmic egg on it. Card 21. 21 is love. The word love equals 21. So the 0 is everything that all things emanate from. The starting point, the monad, right? And then it goes to duality and you're the 101 is the portal. Why do we say, hey, let me give you the 101 on that? Because it's the 2 1s in between the 0 and you have the portal in between there. So the 0 is the portal, the Stargate, the moon, the sun, whatever you want, everything circles, everything goes. That's why a watch has dials. It's round. Inside the watch is a round interface. Everything goes in circles. So it's the 0 that's really important, and out pops the 1 from the 0. And now you have perhaps the feminine or the androgynous, and then out pops the masculine or the androgynous one, however way you want to look at it. I think all of us are androgynous.
Yeah. And also hence the horns of the devil. You said we all come here to be little
we're all
devils.
Little devils. Yeah, we're all little devils. That's, we have the black.
Can you explain that a bit more? Just to kind of.
Absolutely. So, we're all sinners. So we're all little devils. And when you get into it, when you look at your two eyes, if you go into the mirror and you stare at your eyes, you're going to see two black suns there. The black sun is the epitome of the devil, right? It absorbs the light. So it's a taker. So we're all parasites, and the host is the earth, and the host is the sun. We take from the sun. It just freely gives to us. So we're the little devils down here. And when you look inside your eye, when you really go deep into your eye and you look at the iris of your eye, and I would encourage all of the listeners out there to do this exercise. Go in the mirror and go look at your eye, and you'll see the crown of thorns around that black sun called the pupil. You will see that around the iris is the crown of thorns. That's all this jig-jagged, it makes a jig, because that's the sun's pattern. The sun moves in a boomerang shape as it moves through the sky, and that causes the sine wave. It moves like this, and that sine wave, when you wrap it around the circle, which is the pupil, you'll see it inside your eye. Everybody has it. So that's why I say we're the devil and the Christ. We're carrying our cross, which is life, and we're trying to redeem ourselves to get back to what we really came here to do, and that is be love. But we're fear-based because it's scary down here. It's really scary down here. And as far as astrology has their say in it, when you look at the 8th house and the 2nd house of astrology, the 2nd house, the 8th house is Scorpio, and Scorpio's symbol is the letter M with the little devil's tail attached to it. And then across the way from Scorpio is Taurus, and Taurus has the 2 horns. So now you have the devil there with the 28 or the 82. And in alchemy, the number 82 is the element lead, and lead is the epitome of what it means to be a human being. And the as above is, the sun and uranium, and these elements, they decay, and the ending point is lead. Uranium and radium and radon, and these elements, if you leave them out, they decay down into lead, and lead is 82, and 82 is Taurus and Scorpio, which is the devil, the devil horn and the devil tail. Scorpio is the 8th sign, and the 8th sign is tied to the 33. If you take the 33 and you invert one of the 3s and you move them together, it forms the number 8. So 33 essentially is Scorpio, which is the devil's tail. And that devil is the 33 vertebrae that run up the spinal cord. Some people have 34, but 33 is the magical number, which is tied to Scorpio. Yeah.
In a way as well, we have the old saying of the alchemy of turning lead into gold. In a way, is that what you think we're here to do? To turn our lead into gold?
Yep. We're being used for our energetic frequency. That's why the Vatican has the silver and gold key on it. They're crisscrossed, because silver and gold is where it's at. Silver is the most electric element on the periodic table, and then the 67th element, called holmium, is the most magnetic. And of course, as fate would have it, Keanu Charles Reeves is in numerology 67, and Carrie Ann Moss is 47. They're the epitome of the magnetic and electric universe that we live in, masculine, feminine. Can't deny that. I mean, it's right in your face right there. And did they base the characters off of these 2 elements, 67 and 47? Maybe they're in the know-how of this, but then you get into the other crazy, ridiculous things like their latitude, longitudes, and birth cities. It just goes so deeper and deeper, and then it just gets retarded at that point. So, but it really is all about lead to gold. So lead is 82, lead is 79. 82 plus 79 is 161, and 1.61 is the golden ratio. So it's all about the golden frequency, the gold currency.
Beautiful. Wow. I can't thank you enough, Logan, for this conversation. It's been so enriching to have it with you. And, and I would love to do this with you again. I would obviously want to go away and obviously see and kind of study more of your work, because I'm still new to it. But I've just been so overjoyed and so grateful for just to be enriched by this great conversation with you. Is there anything you would like to add towards the end of our talk here?
Well, what's your birthday? Just your month and day.
Oh, me.
Yeah.
9th of December, 1982.
Let me just check my. I don't have all the cards memorized yet, so. Oh, so you're not. So you have the same card as my sister. You got the 9 clubs card. You probably. I don't know if you know that, if you've broken down yourself too much, but yeah. Well, okay. Well, so the 9 clubs card is a card of high intelligence. It's card 22, so you're tied to the titanium in the fallen angel story as well. But the 9, of course, is also tied to the hermit card in the tarot. So it's, you're the very presence of who you are. That's why you're doing this kind of stuff. You're seeking knowledge. Like it's endless for you, and you will continue to do it. That's just based off your card. I can get into your astrology and stuff, but it's card 22, the 9 clubs, and in the tarot, it's the wounded warrior. So it's clearly telling you the Titans, titanium and Saturn's moon Titan, are the wounded warriors, and that's what we all are. And that's your birth card, my friend, is the 9 clubs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty special.
Blown my mind already. Yeah.
Pretty special, man. Yeah. Pretty special. I mean, here's the card right there. So this is your tarot card. It's the wounded warrior card. So he's still standing, got the bandages, and he's still standing, but it's the 9 clubs, and the tarot ended up moving into the 9 of wands. But this is the wounded warrior. You could be here. You may have been here many times. It's very possible you could be that. If you feel that old soul kind of layer to yourself, then I mean, this would describe that, because the wounded warrior's been here many times. And I think you'll just kind of stop at nothing to figure out that the truth is endless. And when you get down to these layers of the rabbit hole, you look around and you like, it's lonely down here. Because when you go back up top to the surface, that's where everybody's kind of having fun and partying and drinking, and the ignorance is up top. And it's fun up there because that's the blue pill, and the Matrix said that, right? I think take neither pill, but I think down, when you go down into taking the red pill and you go deep down and you bite the apple, it gets lonely. Because you have a hard time. Like, I can't have these conversations with the majority of people that I meet out. I mean, they're just, they'd be like looking at me like, what's this dude on, man?
Yeah, so
I have something like you're having, or don't tell me what you're on, so I never take it.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's crazy. But you know what? At the same time, I find there is a sort of joy in it, Logan, because now things like, I've done martial arts for many years. You talk about wounded warrior. You've definitely described me so well. I've had a lot of wounds in my life, even just speaking in this life, to get to where I am. And I had to be wounded to get to this level of awareness and insight in my life. But at the same time, I'm strangely grateful for it. I'm strangely grateful in
all that matters, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know there's not a lot of people like you and me out there, but when you do find those people, it makes life even more enriching, and it kind of makes me not feel so lonely, actually. So I try to remind myself that, and like you said, feeling grateful. With that gratefulness, in a way, I'm grateful for this technology. I can't connect with people like you.
Likewise.
Had we have not got this technology, right? So, in a way, I'm kind of glad, even though it is the case, that it is a lonely place down here. But is it down here? Is it up there? It's all these concepts as well. I'm still questioning.
These concepts. Yeah, I'm just using it as, just to kind of give people an idea of that. But yeah, I mean, it's a push pull. It's always a push pull. That's why you can't be stuck to any of them. Just be an observer, and it's much more freeing when you can just let go and be an observer rather than be, because there's a lot of decoders, they're doing the blame game. It's this organization, it's these people and it's like, man, just forget about those. They're taking your energy, and they're getting stronger with it because you continually start to blame. But when you can just observe and be like, it's an ant. Right? It's just an ant. The ant's not going to come bite me. It's just a wasp, or it's just a spider. It has every right to live just like you. And without the villain, you ain't got no superhero. You don't have a job. People that say I'm a light worker, well, you better make best friends with the dark, because if you don't make best friends with the dark, you ain't got no freaking job, dude. So you got to make friends with the dark. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's just how it is down here in this reality.
Mm.
So you got to live from both, man. You got to live totally. From both.
I see this as part of the whole New Age movement as well, as people talking about light and love and light and light and love. And I just, and then you look at them and you realize what is it about the darkness you don't like, you know? Because too much light will blind you. And that's the other danger of light. You know, and what light are you talking about anyway? Is it light in terms of the light we see, or is it lightness? Is it a weightlessness? Is that a light? A form of enlightenment, to enlighten the load, so to speak? Isn't that what enlightenment is, as opposed to love and light? You know, not to say love isn't something, but people have this warped version of what love is as well. So
totally. Well, I mean, if you just study the periodic table and you study the air we breathe primarily nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen and oxygen make up about 9%, according to what I've read, of what we breathe. Nitrogen is 7 on the periodic table. Oxygen is 8. So we have the 7 and 8. And if you study the pH scale, 7 is homeostasis. And the blood that we have pumping through our bodies on the alkaline scale is about, it runs very, very tight, like 7.3, 7.4. It doesn't deviate. It's slightly alkaline, not like way in the 13, 14. Like if you're going to be all about light and like, you're going to die, man, you got to be just slightly alkaline. That's why the law of one, 51% service to others. You can't be just give all yourself and then neglect yourself. You neglect your identity, man, you know, like, or your body or whatever, man, you're going to pay the price. So you need both. And I think you just be slightly, but yeah, love always wins, because the new car will always beat out the car in the junkyard. No one's going to pick out no one's running to the junkyard saying, yeah, I want to buy that off the lot, please. No, they're running to the new car lot to buy the new car. And that's what always wins. They're looking to buy new wardrobes, new pair of shoes, new deck of cards, new computers, new cell phones. They're not looking to buy things that are broken or cannot be fixed. And that's exactly how this reality works. It works off the same mannerisms. Golden age, dark age, repeat. And the cycle begins. But we're born and then we die, and then it repeats, the regeneration of that. I mean, if you just go look at the division of a cell, it's 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5. It's right. It is right. It forms the damn DNA on your calculator or dial pad. It leaves out the numbers 3, 6, and 9. If you follow the scope of nature, the splitting of cells, it goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to 8 to 7 to, you know, so it's interesting how nature, and then it makes up a photon and light, and it's just, if you just look at that stuff and then let go and then discover your code and stop doing the blame game, stop thinking that, you know, these people are out to get you, and they're doing their job. Yeah, they're out to get people, but if you don't give them any attention, I don't give any attention to these people. And my life is grand because I've made it that way, because I made the decision to do that. Right. So, but not everybody has that path, but I think a lot of people can design it that way. Maybe through the free will, they can take a look at their life and like, where do you got to shave off your life, the cancers in your life? Like some people hang out with cancerous types of people. They hang out, you know, and then you become like them. And then now you're really dark. So then you say life sucks. I don't like life. Then you don't look at it as a gift anymore, because it does suck for a lot of people. Life sucks for a lot of people because they have succumbed to, you know, the more the primal, the ego, and it just wants to stay alive. Your spirit doesn't need anything from you, but yet it's going to stay alive. Your primal needs to be fed, needs to have sex, needs to be a predator. And that's why I'm very fond of what I had said earlier, is that when you can let go of becoming an energy predator, life takes on a whole different meaning, and you can just be more of an observer, and it just gets so much better. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what fascinates me about, I think the other day, because I'm into plant medicines as well, and shamanism. I've been practicing that for a while. And
nice.
During the ceremony and coming out of the ceremony, working with mushrooms, psilocybin, I had a realization about the word good and evil. So good is obviously another anagram for God, because if you take but somehow they said they put the goo in the God to make it good. The anagram for evil is veil. It's a form of a veiling. So evil can be a veil, and there is a good can be some sort of goo that's godly, perhaps. I don't know. I'm just trying to play around with these anagrams. But I had that realization, especially with evil. It's an anagram for veil, and that really stood out for me as a decode as well, being a veil. So, you know, is it a veil? Is it an illusion? This whole thing of when we see things, the evil in the world, but don't we need it? This veil, this veiling. It's things to ponder on.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is a bunch of crap. You know, I think a lot of things that happen in this world are staged, and they're not really, like, if we want to say real, like you and I are really here doing this transmission. Like, that's a fact. That's not like my opinion. That this is really going on. But that's why I say our eyes deceive us. That's why we're little devils. So you got to be careful and there's a lot of things that go on that are not real, or they're not the way they're perceived to be on the world stage. And why is that? It's all about influencing you. And then that may be creating the strong narrative of the direction of this world and where it's going. But is it being run by man or woman? That's the big question. That only will be left up to you as the listener, the observer. Not what I say, not what you say, Amed. It's what you, the listener out there watching this or listening to it, what you believe. You got to make the truth your own. And then just let everybody do what they got to do. Don't force your agenda, your truth on other people. Stand your ground. Yeah, be found, rooted in that. But at the same time, because everybody thinks they're right. Everybody watching this thinks they're right.
And that's exactly where it becomes relative. Truth, the word truth itself, where facts, for example, are facts. You can't bend those. You can't change that. Those are, what's the word? Immutable? Is that the right word? You can't change facts. Facts are facts. And that's by the senses we use with our own eyes. For example, people say, well, how do you know there is a God? How do you know? Not believe there is a God. How do you know? I know because, and I don't like to use the word God because that's another word I don't, always subscribe to as well. But when I go out into nature, that's what I see. I see that spirit. I see that divine manifested in front of me.
Yep.
I don't need to go anywhere. It's there, right there. I know. There is a creator. As in, the creator's there. It's creating day in, day out. The plants are coming out of the earth. It's creating.
Yep.
So yeah, there's this sort of knowing but distinguishing as well, to, like you said, to the listeners as well. I like, since we're on the subject, just the importance of distinguishing fact from what your truth is. There's truth, but there's also facts, and those are two different things I think we can distinguish from each other.
1,000. Yeah, there's many truths. Yeah. There's many truths out there. So yeah, I totally concur with you. Just go study nature. I mean, if you just let go and just detach and go, you realize that, we're gods and we've created the matrix, which is the womb of artificial relativity, so to speak. We've created a world based on language and, technology. But if you take all that away, you're left with the other layer of life. We call it nature. Trees and the mountains and the birds and the bees. I mean, those are all constructs not of us. So there's different constructs in this reality playing out at all times. And, I think the ones that we created by way of our hands, so to speak, I still think it's being controlled remotely, is just a fractal. Yeah. It's a fractal. Like I said, I'll go right back to what I said. The computer that we look into, we created it, mankind did, and it's our so below. It's not real. When you go to the movies, it's not real, but yet you'll cry and get mad at that screen. Why would you do that? You don't know the difference between what's real and what's not real when you're in that moment. So I think the Truman Show did a great job of that. They showed you people are looking on and they're cheering Truman to get out of the show, right? And he didn't know he was in the show. But they're cheering him on to get out of that show. And that was the fractal of he's been the so below, they're in the as above, whatever that looks like. And when you wake up, perhaps you get to a certain gradient where you realize the scary part is at first is like, wait a minute, what do you mean I have no control? We're in a simulation, we're in a script, and then you have to let go a lot of what you believe. And that is your identity. Your primal does not want to let go of that, because the more you let go of, which is nirvana, reaching nirvana is not having any beliefs. It's the primal is going to die. You're starving the primal, the ego, you're starving it, and it doesn't want to die. So you're going to have this, and that's why you have these dark nights of the soul and baptisms of fire, whatever you want to call them, right? So the more you detach, the more you can observe your spirit and identity. And then, which, as the Indian proverb, the two wolves, which one are you going to feed? It's inevitable you're going to feed one. And we live inside of a machine. This is a machine. It's a battery, however that looks. And it's always ongoing.
Yeah, same thing as the ego. I've had so many ego deaths, Logan, but the ego gets reborn and it becomes more functional and it becomes more correct, I guess is the right word to use. That's what, when we talk about, like you said, dark night of the soul or shadow work, I find shadow work, people talk about shadow work all the time. It's not just some act where you just sit and just kind of just self-reflect. I found a lot of the shadow work that I did growing up, because I had a lot of domestic violence and so on, grew up with a lot of that. I did martial arts. That was my outlet. It was actually connecting with my body and allowing it to feel what it needed to feel and connecting with that. Because I always say, your body is nature. Your body is the terrain. Yep. Just as the planet has its terrain, your body is the same. But we're always stuck up here all the time, trying to think that we are this when there's all of this here still missing. MIA. So I always kind of remind myself of that as well when I kind of get to into the ego or into like things like debates and things, and I was like, what am I doing? This is not what I want to do. It's a waste of my time and energy. What is serving the body? Because what serves the body nourishes the mind. And it's an all-encompassing thing, isn't it?
Totally is. I mean, the body is the instrument of the mind. So this little stick right here, man, it takes its orders from the brain, and you're a receiving station. So you just you got to be. That's why I'm a huge fan of Bob Proctor and Born Rich. He does the best job. And any of you out there, you want to make a major change in your life, if you're financially stuck, go watch Bob Proctor for 6 months. Watch it every day, not like once every Sunday. Every single day. How bad do you want to change? So your body's the instrument of the mind. Many of you have minds that are very like Trojan horses, and you've corrupt clusters in there like a computer, and it doesn't function and operate the way it needs. And you got to do this decluttering and deprogramming and stuff like that. So,
but could it be the other way around though, as well? Because I've also through martial arts discovered that the mind could also be an instrument of the body too. Again, I'm just playing with the yin yang concept here.
Sure.
As well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible that it goes both ways, but I think that the from what I studied through a lot of the Born Rich and a lot of the books I've read, it's the mind that has the thoughts, and then the body because you have to have the thought before, like I'm gonna go to the store. You have that thought, and then the body goes and gets an action, get the keys, and you go out and jump in the car and drive to the store. So which one comes first? It's the old chicken and the egg, kind of scenario. So I guess it can go either way, right? But I think the mind is the precursor.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Logan.
Yeah, of course, brother. Thank you.
I would love to do this again with you and
Sure.
And dive deeper in the decodes. But yeah, is there anything you'd like to add to conclude this podcast?
No, I'm just grateful for hooking up, and big shout outs to Syncretism Society and Santos and Danny and Ricardo and all those people over there, and big shout out to Jordan at Waters Above Crypto. If you're a fan of crypto and you want to get involved and want to learn how to do that kind of stuff, go to Waters Above Crypto, Jordan's channel. Big shout out to Nigel and Harry over at Devil's Playground. These are the people like I'm joining with, now I'm bolting on with you, Amed. So I'm grateful, man, because, strength in numbers. And Yeah. And we don't have to agree upon everything. That's the great. It's just when I let you do you and you let me do me, and we talk and we speak and we just use these abstract constructs. And again, a lot of it comes down to pure theory or opinion. And that's it. And all we can do is just have fun with it. Like Beautiful. They do in the movies, man. They just make a script out of it. They bring in some actors or actresses and then they play it out and they put it on the screen. You know? So, I mean, we're living in a big damn movie. We're living in our own Truman Show. So it's just have fun with it, folks. Have fun with your life. Decode who you are. Figure out why you're here. What's your birth card? What's your astrology chart says? Vedic, Western. What is your human design? What's your personality type? What is your personality type, Amed, in the Briggs-Myers?
I haven't. What in terms of the abbreviations?
Yeah, like the INTP or ENFJ.
Yeah. I think it was NJW. I did it recently.
No, there's no W there, but
not W. So
it's either an E or an I, or E or an I, which is either extrovert or introvert dominant.
NJ. All right, it would have been an NJI then.
Or INFJ or
INFJ.
INFJ.
Yeah, INFJ.
Sorry,
INFJ.
Well, that's the most rare type. That's the most rare type. So.
Oh, is it?
It is.
That is the one, INFJ. I remember it now. Definitely that one.
Yeah. I bet if you go read the ENFJ, I bet you'll resonate with some of that as well. So, because we have, we're both. You could be 51% introvert dominant, but you still got we're doing extrovert right now. So we use both. It's always a push pull. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look into that. And by the way, to our listeners as well, there's a great video on Logan's channel. Again, I'll include all the links below. Called Decode Yourself. It's so fascinating. It's I've started on the process of decoding myself, and man, it's like this is never ending. It's never ending.
I got a new one coming out. So
cool.
Yep. I'm coming out with my actual system that I've given it called life coding. So those of you that want to know really who you are and this can be anybody that's on a budget, because I know sometimes readings can get a little bit pricey, but you can be your own guru. You can go within and just use the internet for all your resources. And I'm going to show you how to read your charts unlike no other. It's super simple, and how to create your own code, because that's what you are. You're a snowflake. So
yeah. Love it, man. Love it. Yeah, thank you again. And and so this script ends. Thank you very much.
The script ends. This part of it does, yeah.
This part of it does, yeah. Oh, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, man. All the best. Much love to everybody out there. Thanks for watching.